What's up, Fortnite fam? I'm Zeke.
And I'm Sundown, and that's it. We're done. The qualifiers for the first ever Fortnite Champion Series are finished. The groups are set and the stage is ready, but first we need to dive on in and see what went down in the final week.
After a shaky performance last week, the alter ego trio of Klops, Flowsaw, and Fiesel are back at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, so they were able to score 126 points while winning 4 of their 8 matches, which is very efficient, and they've been known for playing for the late game, staying stacked on top of each other, and showing their discipline. And Klops and Fiesel have been in the top spot in the Middle East all but the last week. The one thing that's on my mind, and we talked about this a little bit last week in the recap show as well, is what is the team's consistency going to look like in the finals? Because they're going to be playing with Hero Kappa, who they won the first 2 weeks with and were very strong, but they've had not as much necessarily time as some of these other trios have invested. So I think it's going to be a real interesting story to see who wins out and is the first season champion coming out of the Middle East.
After taking second place in week 4, the OCE Kings, Jordan, Jesse, and Volks smashed the competition with a 34-point lead.
I mean, winning 5 of their 9 games, averaging 9 elims a game, and then they averaged a top 7 finish, which included a 0 elim 28th place in their first game. So if you scratch that, their averages actually go up a significant amount more. But this is what we talked about in the last recap show. It's basically either them or the Linkworthy and Gubas trio who are the favorites. Linkworthy and Gubas has won 2 of the weeks, but with the Twins and Volks kind of ironing out in the last week, winning it there, and considering they did have such a throwaway game right at the start, that's the bigger thing for me, right? A lot of teams, if you load in the final week, going in the finals, you're there, ready to go. If you go 0 elims and you're in 28th place in the first match, like that feels in so many circumstances that you've hit a roadblock, but the fact that Jesse, Jordan, and Volks were able to overcome that right away and then put up such ridiculous numbers, really impressive. They're definitely the favorites going into the finals.
In Asia, Ruri, Rizard, and Moffin have made it as high as top 15, and in the final week of qualifiers, they showed up big time.
Showing up big time is an understatement. Again, we talk about incredible last-second performances. Their final match, they won with 9 elims to push them up to 123 points, just barely edging out the rest of the competition. And the Japanese trio has been there before. They've all been a part of that World Cup qualifying process. Ruri was there, Moffin was there. All of these guys have played so much, and the fact to see another new trio on top in Asia is really kind of, them in Brazil have a very similar thing. We'll talk about them a little bit later, where there isn't really one definitive team, but more a solid maybe like 5 to 10 who are going to be in the top and you know to keep an eye on.
Over in EU, Mongrel, Mitro, and Benji give us a repeat performance and claim first. This makes 5 weeks in a row they've qualified coming in first or second every week.
Yeah, an average overall placement of 1.4 in terms of your final standings is pretty good. And again, I don't want to go back and harp on it, but the only reason they got second in those 2 weeks was atrociously bad back 4 games. I'm talking about them getting 3 or 4 points in their last 4 games combined and then just misplaying every situation. And the fact that it takes them to quite literally might be at their lowest for them to get seconds, and any other time they're doing anything remotely else, they're 20 to 30 points ahead of the rest of the region. In Europe, where you have the most trios who are pushing forward, the most people who are participating, MMB are ridiculous. They're on another level right now. They're the favorites and everyone else is playing catch up for good reason.
In Brazil, Clipnote, Twaco, and Nothing No Name have had hit or miss performances. They qualified back in week 3, but in the final week of qualifiers, they wanted to show us that they are in fact not no names.
I see what you did there, Zeke, but the Argentines had a great performance, particularly in their final 3 matches, scoring 30 elims and then getting 3rd, 2nd, and then closing out with the victory royale to get 129 points and to push themselves just 2 points ahead of 2nd place. And this is, again, another changing the guard and the top teams in South America. And we've seen the Argentinians challenging over and over again as well. And it's very similar to Asia, where there's a very definitive maybe 5 or 10 teams who you see them in the top 10, in the top 20 every single week, but there isn't that Mitro, Mongo, Benji kind of staking their claim at the top and saying, hey, we're the best. And for me, that means those heats and those finals are going to be that much more intense, because at any point in time, one of these top teams could grab the reins and just totally run with the region, or somebody could not be having the best day, or some of these other teams who are on the outside looking in could become a dark horse, hit their stride, and really get rolling. I'm so pumped for the Brazil finals.
After a recent shakeup, Tfue claimed first in NA East, along new partners Adenac and Fiber.
Oh, you did not just call him Adenac, Zeke. That hurts. That hurts. It's Canada TV up there in Canada making sure he does everything he needs to do in the way. And honestly, if you go back through and you watch a lot of them, like the Victory Royales in particular, their 3VRs, they had 42 combined elims. Canada put up more than half of those himself. He was playing out of his mind, making sure he got a bunch of heavy snipes, looking for people on rotation. And on top of that, he was enabling Alex and Tfue to get into spots where they can angle and just do the IGLing. And the one big thing too, like just shout out to Turner being able to like kind of buckle down, get it going on, not streaming through there, but take the first place, and knew it meant a lot to him personally. And it's going to be interesting to see who ends up playing with who in the finals. You know, that trade deadline is coming up.
Why do people change their names? Speaking of changing names, finally in NA West, we see familiar names in Tfue, Mongrel, and Bugga, but it's actually the trio of Scented, Edgy, and Rex under different aliases.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been kind of mopping up over there. This is now their 8th first place finish across all of the Cash Cups and the semifinals and the finals. They won 3 of the 5 overall FNCS titles there. They're 12 points clear of second place. They scored 130 points in 9 matches. And I mean, this is a case of catch up. Every single other team in trio, like they're able to challenge them, but when Edgy, Rex, and Scented are playing the best, they're making it look easy. They're able to hold the high ground, slay out whenever they lose it, and when they do decide to go, in a meta where there is so many different threats to high ground control, there's so many RPGs and shockwaves, the fact that they're able to routinely hold it, continue to press forward, and then kind of mow down and disregard the rest of the lobby, like being able to do that so consistently really shows they're on another level. And while there might be a couple of teams who are able to challenge up for them, it's really them against the rest of the world right now.
And that wraps up the recap, and now we're on our way to finals.
Make sure to tune in September 20th to the 22nd on Fortnite.com/watch or in client as we crown our first ever season champions.
We'll see you guys on the battle bus.
Beep beep.